Okay, welcome to part one of the Sales Game Content Hub. I'm really keen to have a chat about this, Das. Backstory before we dive in, this is actually the foundation of how we created the sales game. And it was our essential North Star and something that we are consistently using as the foundation for building games. I know firsthand, and Das, you'll know this too, as far as some of our community, our sales gamers, are looking to build their own games and introduce to their own worlds.
Yeah, totally.
So this is going to be a really, really good one for you to dive into, because these are essentially the core principles that we laid out first before we even started thinking about a game. And now whenever we're creating new ones, this is the first place we go. Strangely enough, it's also a really good principle for success in business and life and in the sales game. So what it really is, we're going to dive in, is the core principles of success. And so principles are an amazing thing. Essentially, it's a truth. It's a North Star, like I was saying. It's essentially a proverb. It's a way that you live your life. And it's something that you, regardless of how you're feeling, regardless of how you see the world, regardless of what external things are showing up, even internal things, it's like you go back to the book, you read your principles, and you just live by them because you know that they deliver good results. It's kind of like a principle for life as being a human being is like eat well, drink plenty of water, and get plenty of sleep. Like, it doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what's going on. Like, if you just rely on that, you're probably going to feel pretty good. So these are our core principles of success. We'll dive into the first one. Das, I'd love for you to take it away.
Cool. So first one is, and this is our first sort of 4 principles of success, but the first one is to know yourself. And Steve, I think that this is, the further I go in business, the further I train people in sales, the further I work with companies, work with individual people, whatever it is, to know yourself and to understand the game of self-awareness is to hold the master key. Okay. So there is no set way we need to live life. All right. Everyone is born different. Everyone has a different genetic code. Everyone has their different beliefs. Everyone has their different values. And no matter what the goal is within a human being, there is one thing that draws all of it together, and it's how well do you know yourself as an individual. Okay. So, essentially, when you know yourself, you can begin to understand what your strengths are. You can begin to understand what your weaknesses are. You can choose to double down on your strengths if that's the way you want to go. You can choose to solve the problems of your weaknesses if that's the way you want to go. You can decide that I am someone that does both of those. Self-awareness really wraps around every single part of psychology that sits within us, okay? And I would say, Steve, that when it comes to the sales game, it is a game of self-awareness first and foremost. There is no bigger game being played in that room than how well am I getting to know myself. Mm-hmm. So for those that have played the game, they'll be aware of this. When you put your chips down on the table, when you start having conversations with other players, when you start forming groups, when you start trying to solve a problem, all this is doing, the only thing that is actually happening is moment after moment after moment of an opportunity to learn about yourself and how you're playing the game and how you're getting results and how you're throwing results away. All of it is a game of self-awareness, would you suggest?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the thing with self-awareness, something I've been learning, is everything is a clue. And we hear time and time again when they're like, oh, they're sitting in the room, they're attending the sales game event, and then they realize, oh, hang on a sec, the game started before we even got to the room. You know, it's about almost observing yourself, despite you being the subject, viewing yourself objectively, almost looking at yourself outside, looking in and going, okay, so when I found out about this, what was my first response? Why did I do that? What did I do when I started to feel uncomfortable? And I think the biggest reason why we don't go really deep in self-awareness is it's very confronting. It's scary because you are the subject, and what gets revealed is innately you. There's no running away from it. and I think this is the difference between those that become very successful in life and those that don't, is how okay are you with really staring in the mirror and being okay with whatever it is that you find, and not judging that, but just simply using it as a clue to go, okay, that's truth. Now what do I do with it? You know, and
Yes.
that's a really, really cool thing. So Das, I've got a question for you here.
Go ahead.
I totally back this, as far as the more that you get into self-awareness, the more you get into education, the more you learn, use life as a learning experience. It's like a rabbit hole. Like it just goes deeper and deeper. It's like there's no end in sight, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What would you suggest us is the best way for people to maybe make a start on this journey of self-awareness, even in a practical way, maybe, for those that really want to triple down on their strengths, understand their weaknesses, and have a way to actually move forward with both of that pieces of information?
I think that life itself is a game of self-awareness. Okay. So we are here to learn about ourselves, and then we die. And everything that we learn passes through the filter first of ourself, and how we interact with the world is a reflection of that. So everything we see outside of us, yes, that's about learning about the world, but it also is a practice in learning about ourselves and how what we see in the outside world impacts us and reflects us. Okay. So my suggestion is that if you're not learning about yourself, or if you're extremely bored in life, chances are you stopped learning about yourself. Okay. And so one of the most practical ways to learn about yourself is therefore to go ahead and put yourself in uncomfortable situations. So if you can find what scares you, find what you've previously been running away from, find what previously might have, what's the word here? Taken down the wall and shown the real you to the world.
Yeah.
Those are the things that make us most uncomfortable, but those are the moments where we learn most about ourselves. If we think we know everything about ourselves and we do everything within our comfort zone within that, very quickly we become stagnant, very quickly we become stale, and very quickly we become bored and boring as well, for those of you that really like human relationships and having good ones. If you're not going further and deeper into yourself and learning about yourself, chances are nothing around you is flourishing either. Okay. So that's my number one suggestion here, is move towards the things that make you most uncomfortable. Yeah. That's in life. How does that apply in the sales game? It's perfect. We often talk about this in the sales game, Steve, is it's the perfect opportunity to get in the room and skin your knees without having to deal with the scars afterwards. Right? You actually get to have the learning in a simulated environment, so you don't need to lose money and time and resource in the real outside world, which is just brilliant. What a great learning opportunity, if we may say so ourselves. Yeah. So with the sales game, it really is about putting yourself in a position where you go, look, this thing I'm about to do is scaring me. This person that I could go talk to with my handful of chips and offer them something, that's scary to me. Talking to Darcy and Steve when we're playing a particular part of the game and asking them a question, I'm scared of doing that. Or whatever it is for anyone, the best thing you can do is go, hang on a second, almost take like a bird's eye view and go, this is a simulation. Like this isn't completely real right here. Yeah. I get to actually have fun with this, face the fear and deal with it right there and then, knowing that the worst thing that can happen is that in a simulated game, I step out of it at the end of 2 days anyway. Yeah. I think we lose sight of that sometimes when we're playing the sales game. It can start to feel quite real, but the beauty of it is that it's not ultimately.
Yeah. And that's even self-awareness.
Yes.
Yeah, having the ability to see what's real and what's not,
Nice. Yeah.
I'm really fascinated by this. I love the concept. If I could add a little practical tip, and it's something we do a lot of during the playing of the game, the sales game, is this has completely changed my life, to be honest. And it's something that I wish I started a lot earlier than I had. But that is to journal, that is to write, that is to grab things that you get those little brain explosions, those little like aha moments of like, wow, yeah, that's quite interesting. But soon enough, if you haven't written it down or taken the time to really explore it, it'll disappear into the subconscious again, and you may not be able to use it then. You don't have that tool. So that's a really interesting thing that I would suggest that people start doing as well is start journaling, start taking notes, start writing whatever it may be for them, whether it's principles, whether it's I do this in these type of situations, why, and then allow your mind to wander around the why and start writing.
Yeah, nice.
The big reason why I'm really, really enjoying writing poetry as well, because half the time when you're writing poetry, you've got an emotion that you're trying to describe. You're trying to put something that's intangible, like a feeling, and you've got to try and put words around it. And then as you go through the process of writing those words, you're like, oh, is that what I'm kind of perceiving around this? And again,
interesting.
That's self-awareness. So I think those two tips would be really powerful of knowing self, is to move towards uncomfortable situations and then document or at least journal.
Very cool.
What are you finding here? I think that'd be a really, really powerful thing for people to do.
Love it.
Principle one, knowing self, going back to those people that are interested in making their own games. This is in rightful place at number one. Any game that we design or any game that we play, if it doesn't tick this core principle, it's not going to be a good game. Hence why principles are North Star. So that's it. Knowing self. Drop some comments down below. Drop some questions down below. One conversation starter I'd love to ask is, do you have any other practical tips that have helped you through your life that's helped develop self-awareness or awareness as a whole?
I'd love to hear it. Put them down below. See you on the next video.